Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the C3 BeatCheck, where we check the beat with Panthers content creators and beat reporters of the like. I'm joined by my partner in crime, as always, the professor, Tony Dunn. How are you, man?
Well, I'm doing well, thank you. And like the intro says, let's go, Baker Mayfield.
Man, we have a lot to talk about today. And we have a very special guest joining us in the building. This man is the editor at catcrave.com on Fansided. It's been a long time coming, joining us from across the pond. It's Dean Jones. Dean Jones, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you? Yeah, very, very busy couple of days, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been crazy, man. So much discussion around Baker Mayfield and this trade. A lot to parse from this, but thank you for joining us today, first and foremost. And I'll lead off the questioning here. What do you make of this Panthers trade for Baker Mayfield? It's very polarizing. Hell, it's polarizing even between me and my partner here. We're kind of on two different wavelengths regarding Baker. Where do you fall on this? And ultimately, do you like the terms of the trade?
I've got to be honest. I like it. I can't deny. I can't deny it. I like it. They simply could not have gone with Sam at starting quarterback. What's at stake for Matt Rhule next year? I know David Sepper gave him the vote of confidence, but at the end of the day, if he goes 5 wins or below again next season, then he's going to be gone 3 years into a 7-year contract. What they paid for him, I thought was quite interesting. I mean, there's been a much more kind of methodical approach to recruitment overall this offseason, I think. Rather than jumping the gun, they've bided their time with it and ended up getting him for what will probably be a 4th-round pick, $5 million of his salary that could obviously rise to 8.5 if he meets incentives. So, I mean, for that sort of money for a former number 1 overall pick, who you can probably give a pass for last year because of the shoulder, in all honesty, I think it's really good value. And obviously, they've still got Sam's 90 million, and what they're going to do with that remains to be seen. But it also gives Matt Corral a little bit of time to develop. Obviously, expecting a 3rd-round pick to come in and completely transform the Panthers is kind of unfair, I think. No matter, I mean, he was hands down the best quarterback in the draft for me when I was sort of taking a look at them all during the evaluation process myself. So it's a good deal. I mean, he's a fighter, isn't he? I mean, you can say what you want about him, but he's got proven production far superior to Sam Darnold. I know people have been going on about the interceptions and stuff on social media, and that's sort of that's just scratching the surface a little bit, I think. The guy took the Browns from a nothing team into the playoffs and getting a victory against their arch rival Steelers as well. So, I mean, whether the shoulder's going to become a problem, hopefully it won't be. I mean, the Panthers must be pretty confident it won't be. I know Jeremy Fowler said that they've sort of sat down with him, haven't they, over the last few weeks and sort of discussed everything. And if that's kind of got him on board, then more power to them. I think it gives them a much better chance. Everything's sort of set up for them now. And I think what it's basically done is given Matt Rhule absolutely no excuses. So now we're going to find out whether he can become a competent head coach in the National Football League, which is really up for debate for me at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, whether it's going to work out or not, who knows? But it's much better than what they had. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but
Yeah, you mentioned the shoulder. The shoulder, fortunately, is the non-throwing shoulder, so like we don't expect that to be too much of a problem. On top of that, he played through that injury and kind of gritted it out last year instead of going and just going ahead and getting the surgery and calling it quits. You mentioned though about kind of a necessary move here, and I've been thinking about this a lot today. How could have the Panthers and how could have Matt Rhule even found a pathway to keeping his job without a move like this? is like, I mean, really, it would be a Herculean effort to go out there with Sam Darnold or even Matt Corral and find a way to find enough success to ensure him a 4th year. How could the Panthers have done it otherwise? I mean, and I know that people may not love Baker Mayfield, but is it even possible that wouldn't he just be a dead man walking this season?
Yeah, I mean, based on what you saw last year from Sam when Christian McCaffrey went out and what enough bad film he accumulated on the New York Jets, I know things weren't great there, stability-wise with Adam Gase and whatnot, but I think he proved last year that it wasn't all the head coach is doing. There's fundamental flaws in his game. The footwork's not where it needs to be. The decision-making, the ability to sort of conjure up plays under pressure, it just wasn't where it needs to be. And it kind of had a ripple effect on everything else. I mean, you saw obviously Robbie's outbursts on the sidelines and others not living up to her expectations. I know the offensive line wasn't great, but at the end of the day, if Matt Rhule was betting his job on Sam Darnold this year, even with an improved offensive line, there's just no telling that it would have gone in a positive way. I think if they were convinced in any sort of way, considering the draft capital they gave up for him, I think they'd have given him a 2nd year. But obviously Ben McAdoo's come in as well and had his look, which can't be overlooked here. He was obviously instrumental in getting Matt Corral on board. Seems like a really good scheme fit over time. But what's important for the Panthers now, if they want to keep McAdoo around, if they want to keep Matt Rhule around, is have a good year in 2022. And then if they get, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 wins at a push, then it allows the same coaching staff to stay around, keeps the continuity, and perhaps maybe allows Corral to come in and start if they're not convinced that Baker's worth sort of the franchise tag or a long-term deal. But like you say, they didn't restructure all those contracts and release sort of AJ Bowie and Morgan Fox to leave themselves like 25 million in cap space to not do something like this. I personally think it's a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo, given the age and sort of Jimmy's limitations as well. So, yeah, I mean, they just couldn't have moved forward with Sam. It's just that simple, really.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really kind of what a lot of people have been saying, many of the pro-Baker people, that there was just no way that you can move forward with Sam. Dean, you kind of touched on something that I even posed on Twitter. I put a poll up, and this is still live on my Twitter for anyone watching who would like to go and participate in the poll. But speaking of Matt Corral, it seemed to me like the most interesting question surrounding the Panther fandom right now is, considering the presence of Matt Corral, how many games does Baker Mayfield need to win with the Panthers to warrant giving him a second contract? Because one of the things that you hear is that, well, you don't want to start a 3rd rounder and it would be too much for him. And if Sam's going to bust, which most people think that he would, you're forcing too much onto the rookie. But it kind of muddies the waters, because if Baker does indeed look good this year, I mean, if you have some magic, why not continue to make that magic? What do you think is the benchmark? How many games do the Panthers need to win with Baker under center to warrant that second contract?
I think the question should probably be, how many games does Baker Mayfield need to win for Matt Rhule to keep his job? Because that would obviously send the ripple effect down a little bit more. I mean, if it's 8 or 9 and David Tepper thinks it's going in a good direction, then he gives Matt Rhule another year. And if Corral comes on as anticipated, then they can throw him in at the deep end, sort of in a similar way to what the Niners have done with Trey Lance. For Baker himself, I mean, he's highly motivated, obviously. I'd say probably 9 to 10. Between 9 and 11. I mean, it's lofty. Yeah. I mean, I'm just in the middle of doing like a game-by-game predictions with him now rather than with Sam.
Right.
And that there's a chance to get off to a good start again. To be honest, they've got 4 of the first 5 at home, I think. And then there's a nice little stretch sort of in between just getting off the bye week. They go to Seattle, they've got Pittsburgh, they've got Detroit on Christmas Eve. So those are winnable games, obviously, before the two divisional ones to end the season. So I would say between 9 and 11 to keep Baker's job, whether that's the franchise tag or say a 3-year, 4-year deal. I'm not too sure, but I think anywhere between 8 and 9, and I think David Tepper would probably give Matt Rhule another year, to be honest, which is most of the reason why this trade's been made.
Do you really do you think it's 8 would keep Matt Rhule's job? Because I think, first of all, I agree with your answer 100%. Is at this point we can't really be thinking down the road of Matt Corral without thinking Matt Rhule down, like, of keeping his job. Because if Matt Rhule loses his job, it would be so hard to see a scenario where Matt Corral did enough in that short little window next year, and the Panthers still were bad enough to fire their head coach, that you're going to get a new head coach, and they're not going to try to do something maybe sexy in the draft or in free agency.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if a new coach comes in, I mean, as an example, you've got Kellen Mond on the Vikings, who the Vikings took last year on to sit behind Cousins. Now Kevin O'Connell's gone in, giving Cousins an extension until 2024, and then if they like someone from the 2023 draft, they are not going to hesitate, no matter how well Mons progressed, because at the end of the day, they're not emotionally attached to him from a draft standpoint. And this looks like a really, really good group of quarterbacks coming out next year. So if Matt Rhule loses his job, then all bets are off with Matt Corral, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
If they were...
I'm sorry. Well, do you think that this shows, this move, that the front office has kind of learned from maybe potentially some of the mistakes they made in the past? Now, one of the things that people talk about is, you can look at it this multiple ways, but we've had a lot of fans say they love the Einstein quote, doing the same thing over and over is just insanity. That's the definition of insanity. And they're referencing Teddy Bridgewater to Darnold to another, what they're in their mind is a mid-level quarterback that nobody else wants.
He's describing me, by the way. This is all my opinion.
But there's a lot of other people too that use that quote as the launching point for that. But on the other hand, is 2 years of them really making mistakes and over-sinking assets into quarterbacks, whether that be money with Teddy Bridgewater, draft capital, and then the 5th-year option with Sam Darnold, who was even less proven than Teddy Bridgewater was. Do you think that this move signals any kind of maturing in the front office in that decision-making by how good or sweet this deal was for the Carolina Panthers?
I think it most definitely does, to be honest. And I think it's been kind of evident throughout the offseason. I mean, even if you go back to the start of free agency last year, when they signed Pat Elflein and Cam Irving within sort of hours of legal tampering getting underway. And then this year, bided their time a little bit, got Bradley Bozeman on a tremendous deal, and managed to convince Austin Corbett to come along too. So there's been a much more sort of a calmer approach, I think, from the Panthers, and it was evident again with the Baker Mayfield situation. I mean, they could have given up a little more, I suspect, during the draft, agreed to sort of pay a little more of his salary, and then the deal would have been done, I suspect, because we heard nothing about trade terms being the problem. It was just the money. So whether it's going to pay off or not, who knows? But it does show that they'll keep shooting. I mean, what they have done this offseason is they've drafted a long-term quarterback, hopefully, in Matt Corral, who does have sort of the intangibles to be a productive starter over time. And they've got themselves a better Band-Aid who can potentially see them progress this season. And that wasn't going to be Sam. I think we all knew that. And I mean, no matter what they were saying about early off-season workouts, about him coming in with a new attitude and things, I mean, whether that's just smoke and mirrors to get another team interested in him or get the Browns listening a little bit more, I don't know. But like you said before, I mean, moving forward with him was simply not an option. So yeah, I mean, it's been a lot more patient, and obviously they've still got a little bit of money left over now to maybe get an edge rusher. I'd like to see that, and I mean, they're going to probably have to take on some of Darnold's salary if they can find a suitor as well. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. They didn't give up hardly anything, and they're not paying him much, and it's a pretty high reward if it comes off.
Yeah, and one of the things that has been true the past, 2 years in a row is that everything seems to be fine on offense if Christian McCaffrey is healthy. But the minute he goes out, well, then it goes more to the hands of the quarterback, and the quarterback has not been able to basically succeed in those moments, hasn't been able to overcome the deficiencies on the O-line and just in general with not having their best weapon on the field. Do you think that same thing is true with Baker now under center? Is this offense still completely dependent upon the health of Christian McCaffrey this year?
I think it doesn't need to be. Whether Mayfield's a quarterback you can win because of rather just someone who manages games or not, I mean, we don't really know. I mean, all through his time in Cleveland, he's had an exceptional running attack and a dominant offensive line. So I think the whole approach has got to change on offense. So you cannot be giving McCaffrey sort of 30 combined touches a game anymore.
Right.
And Ben McAdoo, I think, is more than aware of that. They've got pass catchers who can make things happen. I know most had down years last year. Obviously, Terrace and Shai were anonymous, and obviously Robbie's problems are well documented. But no one can deny the talent. I mean, Rashad Higgins is there. I mean, hopefully he's going to familiarize himself again with Baker and make a contribution. I'm expecting a lot more from the tight ends. I mean,
we got a little freeze up. 1 second. He's going to come back to life in 1 second. Grim Reaper, thank you for the $10 super chat. We appreciate that. Keep pounding.
Say something, Dean. Hey, are you still there? If you can hear us, you might want to come back in. You're frozen on our end. But yeah, I mean, so far I'm agreeing with everything that he's saying. It doesn't. If you change how we use Christian, the offense shouldn't be necessarily so dependent upon him.
I am the only person in the world that doesn't think that we need to protect Christian so much. Who really cares? Look, man, when you protect him, he's still getting hurt. Like, just use this mug. Use him. All right, we're back.
I think we got Dean back.
It's all right.
Yeah,
this is what happens when we communicate across continents right here. It's all right. And how amazing, I tell you this, is that when we first started this podcast, you know how janky of a setup you had to do to get this? Now it's so easy these days. But in 2013, live broadcasting on the internet was so new and crazy. Now you can do it just from your phone. But you were picking up with the diversity. You were mentioning the diversification of the offense. So if you just can, I'm the only one in the minority that does not feel like we need to protect Christian McCaffrey. As I know that he's had these injuries or whatever, but I say I don't ever remember a running back in the past where they were like, "Oh, Marshall Faulk, we got to protect him." Or I wonder if they say that about Alvin Kamara in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think it's about how you use him. I mean, it's not just about the volume of his touches. It's banging in between the tackles. I mean, I used to hate that because they're no interior push whatsoever, and they're still putting McCaffrey on sort of inside runs, which used to drive me mad. But they've got a much better offensive line as well. I mean, Ike and Austin Corbett, Bradley Bozeman, all formidable against the run. Taylor Moton's obviously ultra consistent, and hopefully Brady Christensen can do enough to win that left guard job as well. So I'd be very surprised if that didn't sort of enable McCaffrey to be a little bit healthier as well. I mean, it's perhaps going overlooked a little bit, but that unit should be much improved. And obviously James Campion's one of the most experienced coaches around. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they use McCaffrey, but I just think they should take a little off him because obviously you've got the 17-game season. He's played 10 games in 2 years, and if kind of another injury happens this year and he's out for a long period of time, I mean, you're going to have to sort of raise speculations about his long-term future a little bit, given the money he's owed over the next few years.
Yeah, I think this year certainly is the year that determines if he just had 2 injured seasons, or if he's kind of a player that could have been great but is going to remain injured. And I don't think that conversation's settled. I understand that the last 2 years have been problematic and Panther fans have been impatient. I think the Panthers have been probably more cautious with him throughout this injury process because they knew that they weren't as good as. I feel like if he would have been on the Chiefs and they were making a playoff run, he would have played in the playoffs. Derrick Henry came back and played. I think they protected him a little bit because of the stakes. All right, my question is kind of a 2-part question. Is there a real competition? The Panthers have said that they're not going to release Sam Darnold, or at least that's kind of what the indications are. You got this complicated room of Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and the rookie, poor PJ, just coming to work with his lunchbox every day. Is there a real competition, or is this Baker's job already? And second, how much better does Baker make the Panthers? Like, I mean, I've proposed that no matter what, he's a 2-game improvement at the minimum over Sam Darnold. But do you think the Panthers are significantly better with Baker Mayfield, and is it a competition?
I don't think it's a competition, to be honest. I'm not sure if they're just putting that out there because maybe they want to get someone on the phone for a trade, which has kind of been non-existent this off-season, rather than because then you're going to have to cut him loose and eat nearly $19 million. Whether they can split that over a couple of years, still kicking the can down the road a little bit, and something why they're $30 million over the cap already next year, even with Darnold's contract off the books. So I don't envisage a competition. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was still there for camp, to be honest, given now we're only sort of weeks away and most teams are kind of set at the position. I mean, looking at options, I mean, you probably got a few teams who could do with a better backup, and they're not going to pay $19 million for one. So they're probably just willing to wait it out until the Panthers can release Sam. In terms of how many wins Baker makes the Panthers better, I would probably say 3. I mean, I had them down at 4-13 or 5-12 maybe.
Ouch.
But obviously, if they can get to 8 or 9, like I said before, I mean, I don't know if that's enough to make Baker stay, but I genuinely think it'll make Tepper think long and hard about keeping Rhule, because that's the biggest progression leap that the Panthers have shown since he's been here. And obviously it's year 3 at Temple and Baylor when strides began to be made seriously after a couple of difficult first seasons. So that would be Rhule's argument to say this is what happened in year 3. If Corral's ready, year 4, make further strides. Obviously, they've got young talent there with another year's experience, going to get better. So, yeah, I mean, they're more competitive. I mean, I've never seen Baker back down from anybody. So it'll be nice not to have a quarterback who's scared of his own shadow next season. Whether he can sort of galvanise the rest behind a better line remains to be seen. But they're definitely better. I mean, I don't think that's up for debate. I mean, you can debate whether the trade was the right thing to do or not. But comparing Darnold's production to Mayfield's is night and day. As far as I'm concerned, over their first sort of 4 years in the league.
So, last question for me about Baker, really, and just to kind of lay my cards on the table, right? We did a live stream about this yesterday. Yeah. I mean, it's I make it obvious for everyone, dude. I am not a fan of this move. Not only does it seem to me to be an extension of what the Panthers have continuously done and then failed to do, But I think there is a really good argument to be made about Baker Mayfield already being on the team that did have a lot of talent, that did have a good offensive line, that did have a good receiving core, and yet he was still kind of he had that one season where he got to 11 wins, but for the most part, he's a 6-win quarterback. And on top of that, he isn't the most durable either. You know, he does have some questions pertaining to injury. What do you make of fans like me who might have, a clear doubt about Baker Mayfield's ability to actually be what we want him to? Do you think that, this is just what the doctor ordered for him, and now we're going to get to see the full potential of what he's capable of? Or should I just not worry because we have Matt Corral? What would you say to fans like myself? And I believe you might be frozen. Are you still there? Yeah, he'll come right back.
Time. He didn't like your question, man. He was like, "God, you're such a negative Nelly."
I know,
such a
man,
negative Nelly.
I know. I'm just a party pooper.
I wouldn't like your question either.
Sorry, I'm
No,
moving. I'm moving house, and like all the wires are. So it's messing up my Wi-Fi. Terrible. Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's okay. Were you able to get the most of my question?
No.
Okay, so basically, just what would you say to fans like me who look at Baker's history on a stacked Browns football team and have very serious doubts about him being able to be better than that on this Panthers team?
Well, to be honest, they did make the playoffs in 2020, which is more than Carolina's done for a while. Behind sort of a strong running game, which the Panthers have. Hopefully, Dante Foreman can come in. I mean, whether he can do enough to gain sort of significant carries behind McCaffrey is dependent on how they'll use him, obviously. But he's an intriguing pickup. I mean, he's not a world beater by any means, but he's a physical runner who complements McCaffrey well. So he's got that. I mean, a lot will depend on the offensive line. A lot will depend on how Mayfield immerses himself in Ben McAdoo's scheme. And a lot will depend on sort of the pass catchers sort of raising their game and getting on the same page quickly. What I will say is the Panthers will be not for want of trying, so to speak, because obviously last year with Darnold, I mean, he cut a pretty forlorn figure. No real confidence in his abilities, probably personally and from his teammates as well. I mean, just his regression and his inability to come through in big moments sort of ended up costing him. Whether he'll start again in the league again remains to be seen. But I think the Panthers will always feel like they've got a chance with Baker. I mean, one thing he does do well is get out of the pocket and make plays out of nothing, which again is something the Panthers haven't really had since Cam Newton was kind of at the peak of his powers, really. So that I will just say, if you're not convinced, I mean, if you don't like what you see over the first 5 games, which are all pretty winnable for me, then obviously things probably aren't going to get much better after that. But if they can get off to a fast start, Mayfield gets some confidence back with a big point to prove, obviously this year, being cast aside the way he was. I mean, they've got half a chance. I'm actually more encouraged than most, and I'm probably, I mean, I don't know if you read my stuff, but I'm probably one of the more like pessimistic, like about the team's chances, because ever since I've started covering them 3 years ago, they've been a complete train wreck from start to finish. I mean, outside of like a couple of weeks when Cam came back, and that's probably the only fortnight where I've seen like true hope within the fan base. So I mean, anything they'll have to cheer this year will be a bonus, and just see what happens. It will be another roller coaster.
I know the allure for all sports writers is to, I guess, write about the headline that is the most attractive. In this case, it's the quarterback. It's going to be Baker Mayfield for the next 3 months, 6 months, we watched it with Cam Newton, forever. It's just like, but as training camp comes up, if you could write, what are the storylines that you would like to write about more potentially that you might have to shuffle to the side because of the necessity of continuing to monitor the quarterback situation? But to me, I've watched the Panthers training camp closely for about 9 years now. When we started the podcast, we started in 2013 in mid season or the beginning of the season. So I've watched 2014, been to training camp since then. And there's always been some camp battles or some new players to me that people were keeping an eye on that they thought were going to be impact players right off the bat. This is a strange camp for me because I feel like the team is remarkably settled in who the number ones are. And it just doesn't really feel like there's a lot of bubble movement in the background. What are these kind of hidden storylines we should be monitoring as training camp comes along?
I'm not sure if it's all that hidden, but sort of an area I've been wanting to focus on really over the last week, so that I haven't been able to, is sort of how excited I am about the Panthers secondary. Like, you've got JC Horn, Dante Jackson, Keith Taylor, CJ Henderson, Xavier Woods, Jeremy Chin, and Steve Wilkes coaching them. And then you've got Kenny Robertson, hopefully can progress a little bit as well this year. I mean, this is an exciting group. I mean, they're young, they're fast, they're dynamic, physical. It's got all the makings of a top unit that can become sort of an area of real strength for the Panthers. I mean, what happens on the defensive line is obviously going to play a role in that. Whether they'd be able to sort of replicate Hassan Reddick's production from last season. But if Brian Burns takes another step forward alongside Derek Brown, then this secondary is going to be lights out. I mean, Horn really does look the part. Size, length, athleticism, footwork off the charts, and he just looks like an alpha, like an all-pro. Obviously, that's a really high bar to aim for, but I've no doubt he's got the talent to get there. Obviously Dante coming back is a big boost. I mean, his ability against the run has improved significantly. And then hopefully sort of Keith and CJ can make an impact as well. But obviously when you've got someone like Steve Wilkes coaching them and inspiring them, and sky's the limit. I mean, it's really been overlooked with all the quarterback stuff, but I really feel like this can be one of the top secondaries in the NFL by the time this season's finished.
Do you think the Panthers are done in free agency, or do you see something kind of? I mean, we talked about having enough money to do something. They freed up a lot of that cap room, assuming that I guess they were going to be pursuing Deshaun Watson at one point. But you mentioned the defensive line and some question marks there. Marquise Haynes. It looks like they're going to be trotting out Marquise Haynes as the starter alongside of Brian Burns, and then trying to rotate the younger guys like YGM, or even maybe the rookie guy who I always forget his name that they just picked up, Barno, I think, Mari Barno or something like that. But Do you think that there's an opportunity that the Panthers are going to be monitoring other teams as they get closer to those June 1st cuts, or then later maybe these kind of training camp, as they're trimming down the rosters, that they might add a veteran somewhere on either side of the ball this year? Or do you think they've kind of settled down now?
Yeah, like I said before, I think they definitely need an edge, and I think they know that as well. Obviously, they brought Carlos Dunlap in for a visit. Whether they'll go back in for someone before camp or kind of wait until roster cuts have been made, I don't know. But middle linebacker as well. I mean, I know Damian Wilson's was arrested on pretty serious allegations this offseason.
Fake cat killing.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that part? The fake cat killing? Oh, yeah. So, he went into his girlfriend's. He got in this big argument with his girlfriend and, threatening. It's threatening assault.
Yeah.
But he said that he put her cat in this bag, like in a sheet, and he actually put her laptop in the bag, and then he proceeded to smash it on the concrete.
Oh, wow.
So he fake cat killed and actually just killed her laptop. So I think it's like the most awesome, ridiculous story. I don't know if you've ever seen Boondock Saints, but when he slams the thing and he kills the cat in it. I just love it. I love it. Fake cat killing. I don't know if it's a charge, but that's what happened.
No, I don't know, but I don't know. I think he was allegedly threatening to kill his ex-girlfriend as well.
Yeah, with a tire iron.
So I'd keep an eye on that. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen regarding charges and stuff, but if they are sort of quite serious, then Panthers might show him the door before he's played a snap and go in a different direction. There are a few good veteran middle linebackers still on the market. Dante Hightower, whether he'd be interested in coming in that eventuality, I don't know. But I'd probably say they definitely need an edge, and then they're pretty much set. I mean, it's a pretty good roster. So, like I said before, it's just a case of Matt Rhule. Can you be a head coach? Can you make the decisions in games that are going to help the team and not hinder the team? Because after the first quarter over the last two seasons, any competent head coach on the opposing sidelines already figured them out. So this needs to be addressed in camp with legitimate NFL coaches that have come in: Chris Tabor, James Campen, Steve Wilkes, Ben McAdoo. This is real help for him, real help. And if he doesn't make the most of it this season, I don't think he'll ever be able to.
So listen, this is probably going to be my final question, Dean. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. But is there any player on this team that you have tapped for a breakout season or a superstar-like season? I mean, I feel like there are a lot of players that are on the bubble that have had a lot of success. But, you know, because the Panthers have been such a bad team, I feel like we have a bunch of guys that fly under the radar and they don't get the respect that they deserve. Going into this season, is there any one player that you're looking to have a breakout year this year?
I'm not going to say Ian Thomas again. I jinxed
You're
him
done saying Ian Thomas. You sound like us.
I've jinxed him for the last two seasons, and I won't be doing that again. In terms of breakout, I'd expect a lot more from Terrace Marshall Jr. in this offense. McAdoo relies a lot on getting the football in his playmakers' hands and then doing damage. And he's got the physicality to sort of gain yards after the catch. So I'd expect a big upturn from him. YGM as well. I mean, if he gets a bigger upturn in reps, wins the starting job opposite Brian Burns, maybe, then he's probably gonna make a real impact as well, because he surprisingly generated a lot of pressure last year, both on the edge and on the interior, as well as a 3-tech at times. Depending if he's healthy or not, Davion Nixon. I mean, I know he's having a bit of trouble getting back from his knee problem and didn't compete in sort of mandatory minicamp or anything, but he really flashed last year before getting hurt, and I think that was a real blow to the defensive line rotation when he got injured, because he just looked like a wrecking ball at times. And then obviously, I mean, the obvious breakout one is JC, isn't it? I mean, only played 2.5 games last year, but man, I mean, he's just got everything. Ball skills.
I know. Can we say we want a breakout year for Christian McCaffrey? How about that one? Hey,
wasn't that in 2019 before?
Yeah, well, we need a comeback player of the year award for him. All right, fantastic stuff, Dean. Fantastic stuff, man. We appreciate it. I want to congratulate you first with all the work you've done for Cat Crave. I've seen that. I know that website has existed for a long time, and it kind of languished until you took over. And I hope you don't take that as a knock, but it's really made a big comeback. I know you've put a ton of work in, and that must be difficult from across the pond. So congratulations to that, and thank you for your time. Managing editor Dean Smith, can you please tell Dean Jones, excuse me, can you tell them how they can follow your work?
If you go to the Cat Crave Twitter, it's at Cat Crave blog, and then my personal account is at Dean Jones _. Thanks, guys. I've had a really good time tonight.
Appreciate it, Dean. Thank you again, man.
No problem.
All right, fantastic stuff, man. Dean Jones, he is, man, really done a lot of work over at Cat Crave. They have been covering from the Deshaun Watson thing stuff to all the Panthers news and opinion or news that's been going on. Cody, a day removed from this, how do you have you settled down at all?
No, no. I'm trying to look at it from like a left brain, right brain perspective, right? Your left brain is the logical, analytical, thinking side, and your right side is the creative, the more intuitive, right? So, listen, my intuitive side has been telling me this is a bad move. My left brain, I'm saying, yeah, we probably might be able to milk 2 or 3 more games out of this. Again, it's not necessarily that I'm afraid that the Panthers are a worse team because of this. I'm afraid that we have just sent out an order for more of the same that we've been doing. And that, let's say, we're a marginally better football team and it's just enough to save Matt Rhule and Baker Mayfield, but inevitably not enough to put us over the edge. That's my biggest fear. But then again, I mean, like I said, I do think that we are going to be better for a few more wins. And part of it is also because of the offensive line. You know, if we thought that Matt Corral or Sam Darnold were going to have a better chance this year behind Ikemakwanu and Austin Corbett and Bozeman, yeah, then I'm entitled to believe that Baker will probably he should be able to find a rhythm in this offense very soon.
After all the things we had talked about last night, I've really started to change my tune in my opinion for some of the cons of this move. Is I think that this is 100% necessary for the Panthers. And I think that what I want to try to talk you into, I'm going to try to talk you into liking this move and to re-examining your position, is that the main concern that you've had with this is the potential problems and threats that this runs with Matt Corral. Right. But I got to say this is the odds, the long, you know how long the odds were for Matt Corral to have any success with this team right now. I mean, like, yes, I mean, we'd like to think that, oh man, maybe he was really a first round talent that slipped or something like this and he could take over and you got this good, it's just going to be a breath of fresh air. But the odds of that are insane, and I mean, and I know you hate when I talk about your lover boy, Trevor Lawrence, but like, I mean, he was the most accomplished player in the world and he even struggled mightily. And there was a lot of other reasons beyond just him, but like, it's not like all of a sudden we have all this confidence in Matt Rhule and stuff. Like he's a fantastic coach or something. So I think that like Matt Corral could have easily gotten, the baby could have been thrown out with the bathwater if the Panthers season is just horrendous. And your hope of Matt Corral, it would take so much for him to show for anyone to believe that like that's the pathway forward with a new coach. So I'm trying to think of Baker Mayfield potentially being a real opportunity for Matt Corral to get in a situation that could bring him success. And it might not even be in 2023, but I do think even the franchise tag, if Baker comes in, you know what I'm saying, and does pretty well, marginally well, but you don't feel good enough of extending him 4 years or something like that, franchise tag Matt Corral 1 more year and then go with them and try to really mimic what they did with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Because I know a lot of rookie quarterbacks have come in and started, but a lot of them have struggled too.
I mean, hey, listen, most people think that for a reason. It's very hard for any NFL quarterback to come into the NFL and as a rookie have a high level of success. I know Dak Prescott has done it in recent years. There have been a few. So, Tony, I understand what you're saying. It's just that was also the same mindset behind Justin Herbert. And nobody thought that he was going to be ready and that he needed time to develop.
He was a first round
on the sideline.
Don't you think that
but I mean,
he was head and shoulders
like,
ahead of Matt Corral, though, even then, even from a talent standpoint, is right now is do you really think that's it? So you're as confident that he is as talented as a player as Justin Herbert?
Well,
I mean, that's a big statement.
What I'm saying is I see a lot of the same traits. Not that they're the same player and that they can do all the same things, but I see a lot of similarities. And my point being is that you're wrong until you're right, and vice versa. Like a lot of times, and I've been using Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson as examples of this. You think that you know who a player is coming out of a certain kind of offense where they were asked to play a certain kind of style. And in reality, a lot of it is just the certain kind of offense that they were being asked to play. And I think that has to do a little bit with Matt Corral. But again, and you kind of alluded to it, my biggest fear is that if this continues, that maybe Baker does get us 10 and 11 wins. I'm just worried that what if Matt Corral we like, okay, Baker's the dude, we're gonna sign Baker, and we end up trading him away, and he's a superstar.
Well, I really think that I had a hard time with your poll, right? Is I voted in it, and I was in the 9 to 11 range. Wasn't that the number 9 to 11?
Yeah, I can pull it back up.
And I really feel like, to me, is like I was really voting for 10 and 11. I wasn't voting for 9 in that case, but I thought that 12 wins or whatever it was too much to say that was necessary. I really think that 10 is a number where you're like, man, we got to franchise tag this guy at the minimum, or maybe offer a deal and start maybe thinking about I don't know. Is that I just feel like I think 9's too low, and I think 12 is too high.
Okay. Yeah,
so that's why I kind of voted for 10 and 11 is why I voted there.
One of the comments had a good point. It said I probably should have made it the poll of 6 to 7 wins, 8 to 9 wins, 10 to 11 wins, and then 12 plus to get a better example. But I think most people are in that same kind of category. And this is a good question for you, Tony, and everyone in the chat. How many games does Baker Mayfield need to win to actually warrant another contract next year? Because for those of us that are excited about Matt Corral, you start thinking, well, okay, whatever. We're going to have Baker for a year, and if he isn't good, well, Matt Corral has been stewing on the sidelines for a year, and then you can kind of go to him next year. Okay, but if Baker comes in and blows the doors off of expectations, well, then, at what point do you start talking about, well, okay, it's Baker's first year in the system. Maybe if I, give him another year, he'll be even better. So, I think it kind of muddies the water, but it's a legitimate question. How many games does Baker Mayfield need to win before you're comfortable signing him to another contract?
But think about this, is that if you win 10 games, are you really saying anybody's going to be like what is better? I mean, like, how many teams really just roll out 14 wins a season? I don't know if
double what we did last year.
What?
I mean, we've won 5 games in 2 years.
Right. What I'm just saying is this: if you have a quarterback that's if you had a quarterback that could consistently win you 10 games a season, right, and then maybe 2 more or 2 less, depending on, I can't really. There's not many quarterbacks that do much better than that. I mean, like, the best quarterbacks in the league are probably averaging 12 wins.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just feel like that is it's kind of like that's almost like a impossible kind of ideal. Like, oh, well, you can't do better than that. Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I think this is I'm more excited about this, or more hopeful about this being the right move than I was with any of the other ones. And that being because there was so much just what ifs with Sam Darnold, and an overpay. And this is less what ifs and no pay. And right now, it's like you said, everybody's got to prove it. There's a good chance none of these people are around in 2023. You know, I mean, like none of them. And you don't have to worry about any of this. Like what Baker Mayfield's going to have to come in here and save Matt Rhule's job.
Yeah, and that's why this move was made. I mean, is there anyone who doesn't think that this wasn't the doing of Matt Rhule really needing to save his job?
Or how about this? Maybe it's the Panthers saying, like, there's no reason to waste this season completely. Like, completely waste this season. Even if you go and start Matt Corral the whole season and you know you're going to fire Matt Rhule, it's sort of a busted season. It's just like, well, maybe we should have fired Matt Rhule already. You know, is it almost, then you didn't want to even try to win at all. You were just hoping you might catch, like it's like putting the longest bet on the craps table or the roulette table and saying, like, you don't really think you're going to win it. I mean, yeah, you could, but I mean, I would think it would be almost rude to Panther fans to just say, man, we're just going to roll with Matt Corral this year and just go ahead and expect a new coach and possibly us picking a new quarterback next year.
Yeah,
again, rude.
It's
this is going to save Matt Corral's life.
I mean, everyone keeps saying that, but dude, everybody's looking at the glass half full. In my opinion, like it's either or. Either this is going to be a good thing, and Baker is going to be a bridge to Matt Corral, or we're never going to talk about Matt Corral ever again. It's like
without Baker, what were the odds of us ever talking about Matt Corral again? That's what I'm saying. Is those odds? The odds were even longer for Matt Corral to have success in Carolina before Baker.
I mean, maybe
you don't think so. You just have so much faith that this kid was going to come in and wreck the NFL, dude. That's the only way.
You know what? Listen,
there would be no other way.
I have no problem admitting that a lot of my emotion in this is looking at all these other teams that have drafted these quarterbacks that have turned out to be gunslingers, that have a real dog in them.
There's only 3 teams that have done it.
The Chiefs, Herbert, the Bills, the Chargers.
Yeah, and that's 5 years.
The Bengals, to a certain degree, the Cardinals, the Ravens. I mean, it's been
really
happening more.
Back in the well too at this point.
My only thing. So, by the way, Tony, it's not even that I thought Matt Corral was going to quarterback us to 11 or 12 wins. It's that when you look at other quarterbacks that have had to play their rookie season, you got a chance to see what they were made of. And I've always said that if the first year in the NFL ruins a player beyond repair, they were probably never going to make it in the NFL in the first place. And other starters have had to start before, and if they got their ass kicked, they got their ass kicked, or they had some games where they actually showed some potential. And I think we would have gotten at least
that the only difference that okay, right, that's a fair point. Except for there's 2 other caveats, is that those players often were picked high enough where there was enough draft capital in them to where the team is not going to just throw them away because they didn't have success. Not that they got broken, but just like, oh, well, one shot. There's only one example of a team that did this, and that's the Cardinals. But the other thing is those teams that are generally have some sort of confidence in their coaching staff going forward, maybe not in the long term, but for one more year. And that's the thing, is that the Carolina Panthers, is that Matt Corral could only have great success, or the whole coaching staff's gone and he's going to be gone. And it's just like almost too high a stakes. And I know maybe you could point to Jacksonville, but again, you had the number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence, so they're not going to give up on him after 1 year of maybe not the best outcome. And you can point to their coaching staff, but Urban Meyer was just a disaster from the beginning. It was just stupid. Is that the Panthers are really on the precipice of starting or hitting the reset button.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the whole point. after this third year, if Matt Rhule didn't have another year of success, David Tepper was going to hit the reset button. My question is this: like, to what degree, if you think it's fair or unfair, there is an idea around Baker Mayfield. Just how people made up their minds about Cam Newton before ever trying to get to know what kind of person he actually is. A lot of people have kind of made up their mind about Baker Mayfield as well. My question for you and everyone else is this: are we actually gonna get that Baker Mayfield attitude, the patent, letting it flop on them? I know this video made the rounds. This was when Matt Rhule was at Baylor and they played Oklahoma, and they were squaring off beforehand, and Baker comes up talking shit. He said, "You forgot who daddy is. I'm going to have to spank you today." So, like, is this the dude that we're getting?
Yes. I don't think you turn that. I think that you don't turn that on unless that's fake, unless that was fake. But and is that even problematic? Is there even anything wrong with that? Everybody's out there. It's almost like a college tradition to go do that especially in that conference. They have such, it's like, if that's the worst, we just saw that, what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I ain't got no problem with that. I ain't got no problem with some ribbon and some things like that. And I have not. I mean, I need to see more evidence, and maybe I haven't gone and looked for it. But what is really the problem with Baker Mayfield? Is like, it was like almost like, oh, the cam and the laptop. We're still talking about that. Like, how many dumb shit. I got in trouble for having liquor in high school in my car. Well, but like, that doesn't necessarily mean like my whole life is dictated by that one thing. So what? He talks smack instead of being the quiet wussy that Sam Darnold is. Some people are, is like, some people like, oh, are we going to get mad that DJ Moore doesn't talk smack? I used to get upset at one point. I used to get upset that Ron Rivera didn't show more emotion on the sideline back in the day. But, people are who they are. And it turns out is like, when you try to be something that you're not, that's actually more problematic.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if we're going to be playing the Browns, and if he comes out and starts torching the Browns, I want to see that kind of energy.
Oh,
yeah. He has to be. He has to.
You were okay with Robbie having it?
Here's my deal, though. When you're the quarterback, you better be making plays that are indicative of that. You know me. I don't care about that shit. I like the braggadocious energy, the fucking, ready to go and slap people around. But you have to play like that.
Sure.
If he's going to do that, I expect Josh Allen, Joe Burrow level play. If that's what he's going to do. A Baker Mayfield special of 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 200 some odd yards passing, that's not enough for me. So I want it to be warranted. Like, Sam Darnold doesn't talk enough shit. I'm worried that Baker Mayfield talks a little too much shit. That's all I'm saying.
I think you got to really, I think we should, so there's a lot of talk about the 2 quarterbacks in this draft, or on this team have the 2 most interceptions from the quarterbacks drafted this year. I think the Baker Mayfield special, as you call it, is overblown. And this is why I think if you go back, it was that season under Freddie Kitchens in 2019 is the real reason why, right? Like, if you look at his numbers, he had 22 touchdowns and 21 interceptions that year. Other than that one season, he has had a much better touchdown to interception ratio. You could say last year where it was 17-13, but if I remember correctly, he had a 4 interception game or something like that, which, all of a sudden I know that those interceptions count, but it was like that kind of blasted the stat line at the end or something. I don't think that the interceptions are as problematic as they are for somebody like Sam Darnold. because in the right circumstances, look, his first season as a rookie, he was 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and that was the Hugh Jackson year, right? Where they they went 6-7 that year. Where he went 6-7. 2019 though with Stefanski. No, that would have been Kitchens. Was the 21 interception that kind of blew up the stat line. But other than that, he hasn't had more than 14. You know? So I don't know. I don't think he's as we'll see. But I'm wondering if that carelessness with the football is true.
Yeah.
Or is it potentially just kind of lingered? And please explain this to me because I don't understand how this helps you at all.
Okay, so this is the amount of turnovers and interceptions in the time that they've been on the team. So this is interception total, balls lost total, and if you look at the numbers, this is interceptions. Baker Mayfield is at 56. Sam Darnold's at 52. It's kind of going over quarterbacks.
Isn't your boy Allen very high up here?
So Allen, I'm assuming
Josh Allen is up here.
Allen.
So how is this? You're telling me he's the best quarterback in the damn history of the world, and he's on this list?
Well, I'm saying, but Baker Mayfield is also on this list. 68 turnovers.
But don't look at my guy. Don't look at my guy.
No, but you can't say that Baker doesn't have a problem with interceptions. He clearly has a problem with interceptions. Browns fans have been saying.
I'm telling you, one season with 21. I wonder what here is. I'm gonna pull up, and I know you get. And let's just look at the most he's ever had is 21 in a season.
We have we have a Browns fan in the chat. He says he's basically a Tannehill. Look at his numbers last year. Can't win when the game is on the line, and that's kind of what I've been saying.
Yeah.
But
21 was a terrible. I don't know. I think Tannehill just doesn't have any juice. I think he's just a total game manager.
Well, he made him it took him to the playoffs 2 years.
He's been on playoff teams for 2 years. Yeah, I mean he's not the reason they don't make the playoffs, right? But he's not the reason that he doesn't really win in the playoffs. And I don't know, how many times has Baker Mayfield, what is his record in the playoffs? And we'll ask the Browns fan, I know he's won one game against a kind of crippled Pittsburgh Steelers team at that time. But has he lost that many playoff games, or has he just lost one or two? And could you say that Deshaun Watson has lost just as many playoff games?
No, Deshaun has won more playoff games. To my knowledge, Baker has.
Deshaun Watson has only been to Deshaun Watson ain't done nothing.
He has by far more playoff wins than Baker.
No way. No way.
All right, look it up right now. I guarantee you Deshaun has more than one win in the playoffs.
Let's see. Where is the playoffs?
They beat the Bills. Was that the same year that they then lost?
Here we go. All right. He is.
Deshaun has 2 wins.
He's 1-2. Deshaun Watson's 1-2 in the playoffs, dude. He's had one playoff win. 2018, he lost. And in 2019, he went 1-1. 2019.
What was the first year he made it?
2018. His playoffs, he had in that game, he played one playoff game. He was 29 for 49. He had a 59% completion rate. He had 235 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. In 2019, he was 51 for 77 through 2 games, 66% completion rate, 635 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But he still only won 1 playoff game.
I mean, he's been in more playoff games.
All right. So here,
Baker Mayfield.
Let me see what Baker Mayfield is. No, let's just check out Baker Mayfield's playoff record next. And know this is that, so one thing is he has not, Deshaun Watson, he's 1-1 in the playoffs. That's it. He's only lost one playoff game, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, still one more playoff game.
No, it's
No,
not.
I'm saying he has been in more playoff games.
No, he is not. He has
one.
played. He's only made the playoffs in 2020, and he won one game and lost one game. Deshaun Watson has been to the playoffs twice. He's been in 3 playoff games, and he's only won one.
He's been in 3 playoff games.
Deshaun Watson has been in more playoff games.
Deshaun has been in 3 and Baker's been in 2.
And they both have only won one.
Yeah, but they're not okay.
No, don't. Yeah, but no. Is that
what does that mean? Is Baker
success? They've had equal success in the playoffs. That's it. That's all you can say is you can't. So if you can't be like, oh, well, he can't win in the playoffs. We've only had really one opportunity where he hasn't won. He lost a playoff game, just like Deshaun Watson has lost 2. So you can excuse, but it's like, oh, well, don't touch my boy.
No, but because that makes them sound like it makes them sound like they're comparable players. Like they're comparable.
No,
talents.
What you just said is that he's like Tannehill. He can't win in the playoffs. He could get you there, but can't win. Well, you know what? We really don't know, because you could say the same thing about Deshaun Watson. You can say he doesn't win in the playoffs. You could say that. I mean, you can use that stat to say that Deshaun Watson is a regular season warrior, and that's it. But he crumples in the playoffs. You could say that. Man, it doesn't make it true. But what I'm saying is you can't say that Baker Mayfield's playoff record is indicative of him not being able to win in big situations, because he has won in just as many situations as the same exact person that you would give a massage to.
I don't know about all that. Again, you're so that but see, here's the thing though. You and all the Baker Mayfield fans are completely dismissive.
I'm not even a fan. I'm not even a fan. I'm like a middle of the road guy.
You're so completely dismissive of the Browns being a good football team. This is the 100% truth. Deshaun has at least carried some bad Texans teams. Baker has never carried a team to victory.
Carried them to what?
So what I mean is the last year that he actually played with the Texans, he threw for almost 5,000 yards. Okay?
But that might be meaningless.
My point being, my exact point is that Baker Mayfield has never been the reason why, the Browns have come back and just been a dynamite football team. Whereas
let me tell you how much he's carried them is that in 2018 he did. In 2018 they went 11-5 and 10-6. In 2019 they lost. I mean, yeah. So, but in when was it? You're saying 2020 where he threw all those? Was that the one?
Yeah,
it wasn't 2021. They were 4-12, so he carried them to 4 wins. So the season that he had the most yards, that's so awesome, that is indicative, also didn't translate into wins at all.
Say that again.
The season that you keep touting about, right? The season of Deshaun Watson being like the best thing ever, right? And I'll read the stat line to you of what he did that year. This was in 2020. He threw for 4,000, the most yards he had ever had in his career, 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Great season. They only won 4 games.
Yeah.
They won more games. Look, in 2019, he threw for 1,000 yards less and 7 touchdowns less, or 6 touchdowns less, 7. He threw for more interceptions, but they still had 10 wins. So what I'm saying is this is like, yes, you can say he had all of these great stats, but are they in times meaningless stats? And you know who also had fantastic stats? And I'm not trying to say that Deshaun Watson's a bad player, nor am I trying to say that Baker Mayfield is a superior player, apples to Deshaun Watson. Clearly, the Cleveland Browns don't. But we can take stats and use them. There's like Mark Twain said, stats, statistics, and damn lies. Is that yes, he had the most fantastic season you've seen as a quarterback, and they still weren't any good. Right? I mean, they won 4 games. So did he throw for 400 yards? Like, we would have to go game by game and see, like, did he throw like all those yards in the fourth quarter when they were down by 30 points? And is the reason we're throwing the ball so much because you're down the whole time? Right? So I'm just saying this is that, like, dismissing Baker Mayfield as a loser is not fair. Is not fair, especially by using the playoff statistic. The playoff statistic, he is on par with Deshaun Watson.
If you're just counting playoffs.
Yeah, well, you guys brought it up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the whole picture. You have one season where the Browns were a legitimate contender. That's my.
Well, they only made the playoffs one time. And you know what? I mean, to be honest, this is not even like to put that on Baker Mayfield's crazy, because I'm pretty sure that he was with Hugh Jackson, then Freddie Kitchens, and then Stefanski, and then Hurt.
Well, but by the way, it also shows you why the Browns have made this move. They
Sure.
feel like all those teams that they've had, if they had Deshaun instead of Baker, that they would have gone much, much better than how they went. So,
well,
again,
so did we. So did we feel that way. We wanted
season.
Deshaun.
Yeah, I mean, it's proven season. Like, until I see something different, I see Baker Mayfield as a quarterback who couldn't even elevate all of the really good talent that he had around him. I mean, he's the quarterback no matter what. You know, it's like, it is what it is. I can't change that. No one can. I mean, I'll give him.
I feel like somebody peed in your cornflakes, though. I mean, just anytime you say Baker Mayfield's name, I feel like you look like you could cry.
Yeah, I fucking hate it. And by the way, we need to talk about the number, too, because apparently all the numbers are taken except one, which, man, he can't fucking have that. I don't even know who has number 6 on the roster right now.
What about 11? Who's got 11? Robbie gave 11, it up.
We might need to look. I'm going to look this up real quick.
There's no way he's taking number 1. Somebody said that there's a kicker.
Yeah, that was Tim Tizzy earlier.
Yeah, there's no way. If that happens, on top of that,
he was here. Carry it for a second. Let me bring up the roster.
Right. So Baker Mayfield, you know, is an interesting thing. Is I understand, look, is that a lot of people right now who are upset about the Baker Mayfield acquisition are upset about this kind of concept of languishing in mediocrity. The good news, folks, is we haven't been mediocre. We haven't even been good. We haven't even been mediocre. So if we could just languish in mediocrity, that would be okay. We missed our time to tank. They're not tanking anymore. They ain't going to try it. If they did, I got to say, give this guy now this number controversy. That'd be crazy. There's no way they could be so tone deaf. There's no way Baker Mayfield is that big of an idiot to take number 1. Right. And I don't know how we're supposed to figure this out.
So
is that in order of the numbers?
So, okay. Johnny Hecker is number 6. And by the way, Johnny Hecker is like the most famous punter in the NFL right now. Like, is Baker really going to come in and Debo number 6 from Johnny Hecker? And if so, what number would he be?
I think he was number 11 in college or something.
No, he's always been number 6.
He's always been number 6?
Yeah. 11 is PJ Walker.
How can there not be any numbers?
No, that's the number. PJ Walker is number 11.
Cut PJ. They're
gonna do. He's number 11. They're gonna kick PJ's ass to the curb, and Baker Mayfield's gonna be in number 11. Chat, we solved it. What number did you say? 18?
13, right? It doesn't look like anybody's got a 13.
Dude, that's a terrible number.
A Baker's dozen. Number. Oh no, that's what he's got to go. He's got to go 13 and call it a Baker's dozen. You've heard of a baker's dozen, right? It's like they throw in, like you get a dozen bagels, and then if the baker likes you, he throws in an extra, and they call it a baker's dozen.
All
That's
right,
what
I
I
like
would
that.
do. I would be 13 and call it a baker's dozen.
Yeah, but that's also a really ugly number. Like to me, there are some numbers that are better at quarterback than others. I always thought 6 was a terrible number. To me, it just looks ugly on a quarterback. I don't know. Um, it just does. I don't know, man. I don't like the number 6. Maybe that's another reason I don't fucking like Baker Mayfield. Um,
All right.
but yeah, I think
Okay.
it's 11, man. I think he's going to come in. He's going to Debo, like Pat Coltrane would say, pull little PJ. He's going to come in. He's going to take that number 11.
He's not.
Um,
They're gonna cut PJ,
and
man.
that's
You
going
ain't
to be
gonna
his fun.
take it from him. Is that they can't have 4 quarterbacks on the roster? That would just be insane. Is that unless the only reason if they don't if somehow they go into training camp with PJ Walker on this team, that really means that Sam Darnold is on the trade block or gonna get cut.
Who, yeah.
Which, to be honest, how about this? Would that be all that awful in your mind? Would that help your mind? Would that help you like Baker Mayfield a little bit if we cut Sam Darnold? Because then there's an act. Because then that makes Matt Corral the
Yes.
clear backup. That makes him the
Yes.
clear
Yes.
backup. And if anything happens, if there's any injury, or we know that Matt Rhule has a propensity to sit his players if they're not meeting expectations. So
Yes.
if Baker Mayfield goes out there and does that prototypical Baker Mayfield game and we're losing and Matt Rhule is feeling the heat, he might feel the juice then. And I'm also, maybe that should just be the move at this point is that, you know what, say it was a loss, just pay him. I mean, just pay him and leave. And then, but you really have to just say is that like if Baker gets hurt, then we're going to have to kind of just go with the rookie and that's it.
Kenneth is in the chat. He makes a good point. Davis Cheek is number 4. That's a easily takeable number. You know what I'm saying? That's it to me. It's either 11, number 4.
13,
someone
baby.
Someone said in the chat room he could wear number 4. That way he can throw it in the Browns' face even more because that's Deshaun's number. Number 4.
Ooh, number 4. Ooh, I'm gonna go write a blog about this.
About the number?
Yeah, the number controversy. 1. So the numbers are. Let me just so I can write them down so I know what I'm gonna write at some point. Which I don't know.
1 is available, but 1 is
4
not available, even though it is.
No, like that's the controversy though. That's like the starter point of the 1 4. Who is 4? Cheek.
Cheek. Davis Cheek is 4.
6. Who is his number?
That was Johnny Hecker.
And then the real number he should pick is the Baker's dozen,
which is 13.
Yeah.
And that is pretty funny the way you say it. And then number 11. Gotta put number 11. Number 11 is PJ Walker. That has to be in there.
Oh, yep, you're right. 11. How about this? What should be the title? Since we are on the beat check, the title of this story: Baker Mayfield controversy from day 1 with jersey number. Baker Mayfield brings controversy from day 1 with jersey number. Got to bet.
I feel like there's a lot of different things.
Somebody give me some suggestions, chat. Good title there. I think that one because it gives you the number 1, so you could go, so you're bringing in the Cam Newton 1 symbolism into the title. You're tapping into the controversy of Baker Mayfield. 1
big question surrounding Baker's dozen
jersey selection.
Yeah, something like that. But I do like what you're on to with the Baker's dozen thing. You've got some fans of that in the chat. Lynn liked it. Tim Estes liked it. I don't know, man. I don't want to be the one dude that fucking hates it while everyone else. else is happy. And by the way, I feel like there's been a major shift. Like our entire chat room at one point before this happened was like, I mean, we did a poll about it. Do you want the Panthers to trade for Baker Mayfield? Most of them were like, no. I don't know if it's just because they were listening to me for a while, but
No,
now I feel like taking the temperature. I don't know if people are just looking at it as glass half full. Maybe they've been converted, but I kind of feel like there's a lot more love for Baker.
I was not on the trade for Baker, but it was less to do with Baker Mayfield and more to do with the assets. And I think that's just what's come about when it comes to the why the Mayfield trade feels good right now is that you get a player who's better than Sam Darnold. It didn't cost anything. It cost absolutely nothing. Basically, it's a compensation pick, a compensatory pick that you get later, right? At the very best, at the very worst, it's a fourth. And I think people we're kind of shell-shocked for what we gave up for Sam Darnold and how long that kind of the amplified effects that had, even though it didn't feel like a tremendous amount at the time. In retrospect, it was, and I just feel like this is Baker was like it's like what we got. We can make that pick up so easily. It's not it's not like we overpaid. And I think that's why the trade has been positively received.
Yeah. And like, there's a lot of people in the chat room are like, well, there's nothing that we can even do about it anyway. So I don't know. I don't like that forced happiness though. I don't know, man. It's going to be a process for me. Y'all got to let me grieve.
No, if we would have given him a second round pick, we would have been upset.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? If we would have a second round pick, or if we would have given up this in there, like a play or something like that, it just really feels like nothing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Even the money. I want to shout out Josh.
Yeah,
Josh.
Yes, we actually got two that we haven't read yet. The Hero's Path. It says Baker's O-line had him running in this highlight reel. Hero's Path has been coming in with some good donations, man. Shout out to Hero's Path.
Thank you.
And then Josh Hoy says,
AKA
shout out to
Josh from Mass.
Baker Mayfield, ? An extra donut or a mediocre Danish?
That's the proposed headline for the controversy, the number controversy. I like it. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna bring back the beat check. We're gonna start. Now, like that's what's coming down is we're getting closer to the season, and really one of the things I think with the Baker news, guys, is like now that it's here, it gives us a little life, and maybe not on the fields as much as you want, but like it really injects a little bit of excitement into the conversation of the Panthers. It kind of signals not only like that football's getting closer, right? And it really that's one thing that it signals. And the other thing is I just feel like with the Sam Darnold, and I don't feel like I feel like I was actually one of the more comfortable people with Sam Darnold, not comfortable going forward necessarily, but not thinking I just thought it would be better than it was last year with Sam Darnold. Not thinking that he's going to be significantly or tremendously better, but incrementally better. So I wasn't like I can't watch the Panthers if Sam Darnold's out there. But I do think that there was a ambivalence or a feeling, a sentiment among Panther fans where they're just like starting to lose interest in football and the team. After 5 consecutive losing seasons. And it just was like, it's like until we need some things that breathe life into, even if you're not winning, that even bring life into your fandom. And it wasn't Matt Rhule Matt Rhule's not doing it. I don't even think the Matt Corral storyline was enough to really get people hyped. Maybe, it's just like, can we please get some excitement? And I think at least Baker Mayfield gave us that even if it's just momentarily.
Well, you know what it certainly does? It helps out this channel. And you know what? To all of you incredible viewers out there, you can help out this channel too, man. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers before the start of the season. If you can bear my my non-trust in Baker Mayfield for that entire time. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Also, another thing, make sure you leave comments under the video. That always helps out too, man. It helps the algorithm, helps boost the videos to more people. Yeah, man. And Friday free for all tomorrow at 7 p.m. Anybody who would like to join that show, join this discussion, be a part of the conversation. What do you think about Baker Mayfield? Come and tell us. Let us know. It ought to be a good time, Tony Dunn.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you for all the people in the chat. Smash the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the show. Check us out on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m., the longest running Panthers podcast. We're on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. You can see Cody at Cody LAC. Cody Lashney. Good little episode here. And I'm excited that we get to, I saw someone say this is, you guys are streaming again. It's like, yep, it's about back to that time to where we're like, oh my God, we might be streaming every day, folks.
Yeah, be prepared to see our faces a lot more in the coming months, man.
Let's start working on, you know what? I think it's about time to start bringing back Debate My Take. So we're going to start working on that next. And I think right now we are in the mood to argue with each other. So we got to bring it back before we lose this.
We have to. Yeah, we have to. We have to. Yeah.
Take us out of here, brother.
Hey, man. YB Jordan, you know I'm going to stay strong, brother. That's what we got to do because, over here, we Panthers, we keep pounding. Until next time, peace and love.